I have done over 150 paid fantasy football drafts this summer, and in today's video, we're going to be going over 10 players that I believe, from my experience in these fantasy drafts, that you need to be drafting in 2025 fantasy football. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into my top 10 must-have players for 2025 fantasy football. We begin with my first must-have player. That is going to be Christian McCaffrey, running back of the San Francisco 49ers. Current ADP from ESPN, CBS, NFL, and Sleeper have him as the RB5 at pick number 10. There are going to be leagues that you guys are in where Christian McCaffrey even falls into the second round because people are scared of drafting Christian McCaffrey. For one, they just brought in Brian Robinson. They traded with the Washington Commanders, and now people magically think that Christian McCaffrey's fantasy football value has been decimated, all because Brian Robinson is there. And while I did talk up Brian Robinson when he was a Washington Commander and when I did assume he was going to be on the Commanders, it wasn't because I thought that Brian Robinson was this great running back. It was because he was attached to a great offense, and as the lead back, he has a chance to score a bunch of touchdowns in Washington. But now, with Christian McCaffrey as the lead back on the team, I don't think Brian Robinson's going to play much of a factor at all if Christian McCaffrey is able to stay healthy. Now, sure, maybe Brian Robinson ends up seeing more snaps, more touches than a guy like Isaac Guerendo would behind Christian McCaffrey. But to me, that doesn't make me worry at all. It's not like Brian Robinson is going to go out there and steal all the pass catching work from Christian McCaffrey, because that's not what Brian Robinson does, right? In Washington, Austin Eckler was the guy getting all of the pass catching opportunities. And it's not like on the goal line, you're taking out Christian McCaffrey to put Brian Robinson in there. And I fully understand that a lot of you guys may have gotten burned by Christian McCaffrey last season. You might have drafted him top 3 overall, and Christian McCaffrey absolutely reamed you. And I understand that there are some concerns with injuries when it comes to Christian McCaffrey in his career as a whole. But in my opinion, the upside greatly outweighs the risk when it comes to Christian McCaffrey. He has had 20-plus point per game finishes in 5 of his 8 seasons, with only top 12 finishes if he played in 16 or more games. Prior to last season, he played in 16 games and 17 games the season prior to that. So while you did feel led astray by what Kyle Shanahan was saying in the summer, and while you felt done dirty by what Christian McCaffrey did to you last season, it is important in fantasy football to have a short memory with these kind of things, not to fully panic off of one down year. Because when you are able to potentially draft the running back 1 at pick number 10, sometimes pick 13, 14, 15, in my opinion, you have to do it. The upside greatly outweighs the risk. Plus, the 49ers have one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So Christian McCaffrey is going to be put in very positive situations, especially late on into the game, to ice the game out running the football. So while some people will panic because of Brian Robinson, while some people might panic because Christian McCaffrey screwed the pooch last season, I am not going to panic. I'm going to draft a guy that I believe has RB1 upside, and not just the RB1 upside, RB1 by 20, 30, 40, 50 plus points more than the guy that finishes as the RB number 2. And even if you think that the team is going to take away some of the snap share from Christian McCaffrey, he's not going to be the prototypical workhorse running back, then even if they take away some rushing opportunities, he is still the pass-catching running back on this team. He is still going to feast. I'm not worried about Christian McCaffrey at all. I believe you got to take him. Next up, we move to Josh Jacobs, running back of the Green Bay Packers, formerly of the Las Vegas Raiders. ADP running back 8 at pick number 16, the 4th pick inside of the second round. I have been talking up Josh Jacobs all summer. Josh Jacobs was one of my must-draft running backs last summer. And if you drafted him, a lot of people were saying early on in the season that I was an idiot. Nick, you told me to draft Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs has done nothing short of completely sink the metaphorical battleship of my fantasy team. Because from weeks 1 through 4, he was the RB 31 in points per game, averaging just 10.8 points per game. But from weeks 5 through 18, he was averaging 19.2 PPR points per game as the RB number 4. So even though he came out the gate of the season very, very slow, he sped up towards the end and ended up winning the race like you're watching some type of horse race here, because Josh Jacobs looked phenomenal last season. He was the RB6 on the season and the RB8 in points per game. He ranked 6th in carries, 6th in rushing yards, 26th in targets, 24th in receptions, 15th in receiving yards, and 4th in total touchdowns with 16. I get Josh Jacobs isn't this prototypical pass-catching running back like a guy like Christian McCaffrey, like prime Austin Eckler, right? That's not what Josh Jacobs is, but he's going to see a similar amount of receiving work as a guy like Saquon Barkley, who we just saw put the league on blast last season. In terms of goal line touches, last season, players with the most goal line rushes in 2024, Josh Jacobs ranked first with 22. And based upon the wide receiver core that they have there, Matthew Golden, Jaden Riley-Reed, Romeo Doubs, in my opinion, they don't really have that prototypical red zone weapon at the wide receiver position. Sir, they do have Tucker Kraft Mac and Cheese, who is good inside of the red zone, but once they get on the goal line, I think they're going to be looking to give the ball a ton to Josh Jacobs. And if Jordan Love and this offense are able to percolate like I believe they have the upside to, especially now with Matthew Golden being drafted to the team, then this might be a golden opportunity to jump onto Josh Jacobs at a discount right now going inside of the second round. Last year, he was very efficient. 12th in explosive rating, 15th in yards created per touch, 9th in dominator rating with the 34th highest run block rating. Last year, there were a few running backs that had 1,000 plus rushing yards after contact. Derrick Henry with 1,572. Tractor Cito, don't stop for no one. Saquon Barkley, 1,480. Josh Jacobs, 1,159 rushing yards after contact. So if you think the offensive line is going to get a little bit better over there in Green Bay, then Josh Jacobs truly can have a tremendous season. And again, while he doesn't have that crazy pass-catching upside, it's not like he has stone hands like vintage Derrick Henry. He can also catch passes when called upon, and I do love the system that Matt LaFleur runs, so I feel very, very confident in the Packers offense. Thus, I feel very confident when it comes to Josh Jacobs. Next up, we move to George Kittle, tight end of the San Francisco 49ers, current ADP tight end 3 at pick 36, the 12th pick inside the third round right now based upon that consensus ADP. Tight end 3 in PPR last season, tight end 1 in points per game, and he has been a top 6 finisher in points per game every single one of his last 7 seasons, and a top 3 tight end in terms of points per game in 5 of the last 7 seasons. Now, some people might ask, Nick, you have Christian McCaffrey as a must-have player, you also have George Kittle as a must-have player. Can you draft both of them on the same team? In my opinion, yes, I am fine drafting players that are on great offenses on the same team. If you're like, Nick, should I draft Breece Hall and also draft Garrett Wilson? To me, that would scare the ever-living shit out of me, having 2 players on my team that are defending, that are relying on Justin Fields to go out there and put up belt to ass, right? I like Justin Fields, I like Breece Hall, I like Garrett Wilson, but having those guys all on the same team would scare the ever-living shit out of me. But when you got an offense like the 49ers that I project to be very good, I think that George Kittle is going to be able to have a very big season yet again. He played in 15 games last year, missing 1 game with a hamstring game, and then, or the hamstring strain, and then missed a game later on in the season with another hamstring strain. 94 targets last year, 6.3 per game. He ranked 7th. 78 receptions, 5.2 per game, 5th. 1,106 receiving yards, 73.7 per game, 3rd, and 8 total touchdowns, 2nd at the tight end position. You mean to tell me a guy that only had the 7th highest amount of targets at the tight end position still finished that highly? Imagine if his targets just go up a little bit more. Imagine if he's getting 105. 110, maybe even 120 targets, because there's so many injuries to the 49ers wide receivers. Juwan Jennings, who knows how that ends up going, right? Brandon Ayuk, who knows how healthy he is even going to be when he returns to the field. So I think the door is wide open for George Kittle to put up yet another tremendous showing. In terms of efficiency, this guy is as efficient as it gets. First in fantasy points per route, second in fantasy points per target, second in quarterback rating per target, first in dominator rating, first in yards per target, first in yards per reception, and first in yards per team pass attempt. And if you look at this graph by Ian Hartis, just George Kittle putting up similar per route efficiency numbers as the league's best wide receivers. George Kittle is simply that good. So if he just falls ass backwards into a slightly higher target share, a slightly higher amount of targets in this 49ers offense, and he already finished as the tight end 1 in points per game last season, he could be a guy that's averaging 17 points per game in PPR. Again, George Kittle is really just that dude. He's really that good. He's an excellent red zone threat. I love George Kittle right now, especially because there is such a big gap between when you draft him. Like Brock Bowers goes sometimes in the middle of the second round. Trey McBride typically late second or early third. You can get George Kittle at the end of the third round, sometimes even in the beginning of the fourth round. So I'm big onto George Kittle this season, just like I am with all the players in today's video. That's why they're called must-have players. At number 4, we have Courtland Sutton, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, ADP wide receiver 22 at pick 52, the 5th round pick number 4. Now, in the preseason game today, and I want to preface before I even read these numbers off, preseason isn't something to live or die off of. We have seen guys play great in the preseason that end up having dog shit NFL careers. They don't even step foot on the gridiron, right? We have seen guys that look dog shit in the preseason end up having great careers, great seasons, right? So I don't want to, I want to put a grain of salt on this. Don't take this with 100% certainty, but Courtland Sutton's been in the NFL for a while, and based upon what he showed today in preseason, really shows you how involved he's going to be in this offense. Out of 14 Bo Nix throws with the first team, Sutton has 7 targets, giving him a 50% target share. Sutton had 4 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown already, and getting less attention off of him now that Evan Engram is on the field. If there's something to be said about today, Courtland Sutton will be even better this year. Next year's Nico Collins, I actually think that is a very fine assessment. I think that people are heavily sleeping on Courtland Sutton. For one, the guy's season last year was a very strong indicator towards his best season coming forward, because of the fact that he started the season off slow, and then about halfway into the season is when he started putting up those big numbers. And that's really an indicator, a very strong indicator towards a very strong season coming the next year. Weeks 1 through 8, he just had 9.7 points per game in PPR. Then you look at weeks 9 through 18, he is averaging double it, basically 18.1 fantasy points per game from weeks 9 through 18. They have Sean Payton. They have Bo Nix, who looked really good also down the stretch of last season, which again pushes towards Bo Nix having an even better 2025 season. I think he's very clearly the number 1 target on this team. Sure, they have Evan Engram. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about him a little bit later. They have Marvin Mims. They have Patrick Bryant. But Courtland Sutton is the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He is the number 1 target. And I think if the Broncos offense is able to get better, then Courtland Sutton really has the upside of genuinely being a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy football. Last year, he was 8th in true catch rate. He ranked 13th in targets, 17th in receptions, 13th in receiving yards, and 13th in total touchdowns with 8. I think the best season is yet to come for Courtland Sutton. I've always liked him, and he never really was able to put it all together. But now with better quarterback play, a great head coach, I feel very confident that this year is going to be straight up domination, 50 Shades of Grey style out of Courtland Sutton. At number 5, we got George Pickens, wide receiver of the Dallas Cowboys. ADP wide receiver 28 at pick 64. Shout out to the Nintendo, the 604 off of the board. Now, George Pickens has been a guy that you have probably drafted over the 3 years of him being in the NFL. You have fallen for him. You've thought about, hey, remember when he was about to get drafted into the NFL and he's standing in front of the TV, mean mugging the pick, mean mugging Roger Goodell, and that picture's fucking hilarious, by the way. And you've seen George Pickens play, and you see all of these flashes of greatness, but he never really put it together for a full season. I think this is where that finally happens. He is not the wide receiver 1 on the team, right? CeeDee Lamb is by far and away the best wide receiver on this team, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like CeeDee Lamb is going to lose out on targets for George Pickens, but he is on an offense that is going to be significantly more pass-heavy compared to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the past. The Pittsburgh Steelers were one of the most run-heavy offenses in the National Football League last year, and I believe the Dallas Cowboys, with a guy like Javonte Williams at running back, they've got Jaden Bonnie Blue, they have some other running backs there like Miles Sanders. I don't really think this is a team that's going to go super heavy into pounding the rock like they've got Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley back there, right? This is a team that's going to have to throw the ball, especially if Micah Parsons doesn't return to the Dallas Cowboys. That is a humongous hit, like Ray Lewis style, to the defense. And if the defense is getting worked, the defense is getting fucked up, then guess what? You're going to have to throw the ball more late on in the game, and that is where George Pickens will be more involved. I've always liked George Pickens, but it was kind of just always the situation in Pittsburgh that was greatly suppressing his value that I feel like is going to be actually utilized here in Dallas. Last year, if you had him, you obviously weren't that happy. He was the wide receiver 40 in PPR points per game, played in 14 games. He missed 3 games with a hamstring strain. He had 103 targets, 59 receptions, 900 receiving yards, and 3 total touchdowns. The only metric where he was inside the top 30 was receiving yards, where he was the wide receiver number 29. But in efficiency, 3rd in explosive rating, 15th in yards per team pass attempts, 14th in yards per reception. According to Matt Harmon's reception perception, Pickens hit career best marks last season. 72.8% success rate versus man coverage, 77.6% success rate versus press, 83rd percentile, and he is one of the best go ball wide receivers in the National Football League. So I really do believe that this is the situation where George Pickens is finally going to be able to cement himself as a guy that is going to put up a real high season, a season where he actually is able to break 1,200, 1,300 plus receiving yards and score a decent amount of touchdowns. Why do I believe this? Is this, to me, kind of feels like T. Higgins from last year, right? And I love T. Higgins, but you have to take T. Higgins in like the 2nd or the 3rd round. You can get Pickens all the way in round number 6, because this is a team that I suspect is going to have to throw the ever-living shit out the ball. And with the defenses focusing in on CeeDee Lamb, I think George Pickens is going to be able to eat in this offense. So I'm a big fan of George Pickens, with Mr. Dickie Dak Prescott, probably also the best quarterback that George Pickens has ever played with. At number 6, we're sticking with the wide receivers. This time, we got a rookie, Tetairoa, McMillan, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers, ADP wide receiver 30, at pick 70, going at the end of the 6th round with pick number 10 inside of round number 6 of a 12-team league. But before we can talk about T-Mac some more, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description, you will receive your free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash, as well as receiving my draft guide to your email the next day that you use to sign up for Underdog. If you're like, Nick, what is Underdog? It is the best ball platform in the world. If you're not familiar with what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football. It's the draft, and that's it. There's no waivers, there's no trades, and there is no in-season management. Underdog automatically puts up the highest scores into your lineup at the end of every single week. Their biggest tournament right now is going to be Best Ball Mania, $25 to enter, $15 million in total prizes, $2 million to first place, $1 million to second place. So if you want to come draft with me over on there, check out Underdog, link in the video description, or by using promo code Notorious. And if you would just like my draft guide, you're already on Underdog, or you don't want to sign up on Underdog, that's okay. Just sign up using the link in the video description for my Patreon, $12.50 a month. And all you have to do is sign up for 1 month, and you can cancel, and you will still get my draft guide. So Tet McMillan, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers. I know he likes to be called T-Mac, but we'll call him Tet T-Mac. Who gives a fuck, right? He doesn't know me. Wide receiver 30, pick 70 off of the board. Now, the reason why I like T-Mac so much, for one, super high draft capital, right? 8th overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft out of Arizona. So I like the draft capital. I like the landing spot in Carolina because of how good Bryce Young looked down the stretch of last season, and because of how well we saw one Adam Thielen perform last season. And Adam Thielen at this point in his career doesn't have shit on a guy like T-Mac, who last year at Arizona, 21 years old, in 2024, 12 games played, 84 receptions for 1,319 yards and 8 touchdowns, and he's not a one-hit wonder. 2023, 13 games, 90 receptions for 1,402 yards and 10 touchdowns. In terms of reception perception, he had a 70.4% success rate versus man coverage, 81% success rate versus zone, and 73.1% success rate versus press, 80th percentile. And again, we saw Adam Thielen last year have multiple games where he looked like he hopped in the DeLorean, he hopped in a time machine like one of those old school fucking Doritos Super Bowl commercials, and he looked amazing. Week 13 up against the Bucs, he's the wide receiver 6. Week 14 up against Cooper DeJean, who, little known fact, is not a safety, wide receiver 17. Week 16 up against Arizona, wide receiver 21. Week 17 up against Tampa Bay, wide receiver number 8. And again, this is not the Thielen of prior years. McMillan in college had back-to-back years with 1,300 plus receiving yards and 130 plus targets. All 3 collegiate years, 15 plus yards per catch, 8 plus touchdowns. Bryce Young from weeks 12 through 18, 7th most total pass attempt, top 6 fantasy quarterback. So if Bryce Young is able to rekindle that fire that he caught at the end of last season, then Tetairoa McMillan has league winner written all over him. At number 7, we gave a spoiler to this guy earlier. It's Evan Engram, Easy E, tight end of the Denver Broncos, ADP tight end 9 at pick 78, the 706. Tight end 32 in PPR last year because he only played in 9 games, 4 games missed with a hamstring strain early on in the season, and then he missed the final 4 games with a shoulder injury. Tight end 12 in points per game. The Jacksonville Jaguars got all flipped upside down last year like Will Smith in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They have Trevor, then they have Mac Jones, Evan Ingram's playing, then he's not playing. It was a fucking shit show of a season for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I guess Jaguars fans are just probably used to at this point ever since Blake Bortles ended up leaving them. Last year, he had 64 targets, 47 receptions, 365 receiving yards, and 1 total touchdown. In terms of efficiency, he only had 1 drop, which is important to note because back in the day with Evan Engram in New York with the Giants, this dude was dropping legitimately every single easy target. It would hit him right in the chest, fall directly into the dirt. It was embarrassing. And only 1 drop last season on 64 targets, 7th in expected points per game, 10th in yards per team pass attempt, and 10th in target separation. Evan Engram was able to, in 2023, be the tight end 4 in points per game, and in 2022, both games with 17 plus games played, 17 games played, he was the tight end 7 in points per game. So Evan Engram clearly has the ability to be a high-end fantasy option at the tight end position. And behind Courtland Sutton, to me, the second best target isn't Marvin Mims. It isn't Patrick Bryant. It isn't any of these other players that people might want to name. It's Evan Engram. So if Evan Engram is able to command the targets that I believe that he will, because tight ends who have 90 plus targets over the last 3 years have been Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, Evan Engram, David Njoku, and George Kittle. And you know what you notice about that? A guy like Evan Engram doesn't go in the same range as a guy like George Kittle or as a guy like Travis Kelce or TJ Hawkinson. So I feel very good about taking that discount on Evan Engram again, because when we talked about Courtland Sutton, we talk about my personal belief in Sean Payton, my personal belief as well with Bo Nix. So a good offense with a great tight end. I think Evan Engram is going to have a huge year and potentially finish inside of the top 3 at the tight end position. At number 8, we got Egnuka, wide receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, ADP wide receiver 45 at pick 104, the 908. I will tell you right now, if your friends or your league mates, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your friends from high school, Jim and Pam from The Office, shout out to Dwight Schrute, right? If you're playing with those people, maybe they're not the smartest, maybe you can get them at a discount, but this dude's ADP is rising quicker than your cock when you wake up in the morning because all of the news around him is bad, like for the other players, but it's great for him. Bucs wide receiver Jalen McMillan is expected to miss at least 8 games due to a severe neck strain. Buccaneers plan to activate wide receiver Chris Godwin off the PUP. That sounds good, right? But they're going to have him on the 53-man roster to start the season, but only to begin his ramp-up process for games. His ramp-up process. Not that they plan to play him. Not to immediately play him. Godwin still is unlikely to play until October as he continues recovering from the fractured ankle he suffered in Week 7 versus the Ravens last season. He expected to start practicing in Week 2, but the team thinks that he is right where he should be at this time. So if he's missing the first 4, 5, 6, 7 games of the season, and even when he comes back, he's probably not going to be himself. It's going to take some time to get entrenched into this offense with Baker Mayfield. then Emeka Egnuka could easily stay as the number 2 receiver, and I think he's going to be able to overlap the Mike Evans as the wide receiver number 1 on this team. There is no doubt in my mind that Emeka Egnuka doesn't have the talent to do so. He was a first-round NFL draft pick. 19th overall pick in 2025. Full 4 years in college at Ohio State. 2024 as a 22-year-old, 16 games played with 109 targets for 81 receptions and 1,011 receiving yards, 12.5 yards per reception for 10 receiving touchdowns. He had 2 1,000-plus receiving yard seasons, both of those seasons at Ohio State, in which he scored 10 receiving touchdowns. Everything that comes out of the mouth of the coaching staff, everything that has come out the mouth of Baker Mayfield is a straight-up Sukalamink Gawk Gawk 9,000 special of Mr. Emeka Egnuka. Baker Mayfield continued to rave about Emeka Egnuka. Emeka Egnuka is an absolute stud. He's the real deal. We can plug and play him at any of the 3 receiver spots right now. It is pretty exciting. We saw Mike Evans really be on the struggle bus early on in last season when Godwin was healthy, and I think Emeka Egnuka could throw him right back onto the struggle bus. I like Mike Evans, but at ADP, Emeka Egnuka is a certified steal, and even if you have to take him in like the 7th round, I am perfectly fine doing that. He really is that good. At number 9, we got Drake Maye, quarterback of the New England Patriots, ADP quarterback 18 at pick 136, the 1104. If you're punting quarterback and your league mates are taking 2 quarterbacks and you're starting to panic, you are afraid, you are petrified, then Drake Maye is the quarterback for you. Now, last year, I understand that the per game stats, the stats at the end of the season, aren't necessarily the best. He played in 13 games, but in both Jets games, he threw 8 or less passes. Week 18, he threw once, so that kind of just tanks his point per game numbers even further. 4 of 10 real starts, he was a top 12 quarterback. And why I like Drake Maye so much, for one, they bring in Stefon Diggs. That is a large deal for Drake Maye because he is by far and away the best wide receiver on this team. They draft Kyle Williams. They also have Demario Douglas, who's been getting a lot of praise in camp. They have some other pieces as well, but obviously Stefon Diggs is the main sparkling point, the main big point of this wide receiver core. And another reason to like Drake Maye is because of his rushing upside. Last year, again, he really only played in 10 games. He rushed 54 times for 421 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, 16th in carries, 9th in rushing yards, and 14th in total touchdowns. And again, this was on a team that was run like shit because Drake Maye realistically should have been starting from week 1. That Jacoby Brissett experiment was a absolute kick in the cojones for Drake Maye. So now Drake Maye's had the whole summer as the QB1. He's been able to work with the new coach, Mike Vrabel, the new system there, and I believe that it is going to pay dividends for Mr. Drake Maye this season. Again, in fantasy, we like to hunt quarterbacks that have some rushing upside. That's exactly what Drake Maye has. He has a brand new wide receiver piece in Stefon Diggs. This might be exactly what happened when Josh Allen got Stefon Diggs over in Buffalo. So I think that Drake Maye is a humongous value right now late in drafts. And again, if you wait on the quarterback position, Drake Maye is perfect for you. And if you're in a super flex league and all the top 12 guys are gone, you're looking for your QB number 2, definitely look the way of Drake Maye. Final guy is going to be Bill Nye the Science Guy, Croskey-Meritt, running back of the Washington Commanders, ADP running back 44 at pick 147, the 1303. Just like Emeka Egnuka, JCR, Bill's ADP is rising at a rapid rate, and he is not going to be going in the 13th round of your league, probably in around the 8th or the 9th round. Now, previous to today, I was a little bit more pessimistic on Bill, right? I didn't think he was a bad pick. I didn't think he was a great pick. I kind of just felt like if you take him, it's kind of meh, right? Because I think there's a good chance, I thought that maybe this was going to be a 4-way, 3-way backfield of death. Where you draft Eckler, but Eckler's not getting enough work. Where you draft Bill, but Bill's not seeing enough goal line work. And you draft Rodriguez, and he's really only working in the red zone. And you just end up never knowing who to start. You always start the wrong guy. You always think you finally figured that out because one guy had a great game. Then you start that guy, and he does nothing the next week. Almost like a game of musical chairs at the running back position. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Violent Myers, Bill was rested along with the starters in the Commanders' final preseason game with Chris Rodriguez playing. Now, he has been dealing with a bit of an injury, so maybe it's the injury as well as him kind of being a starter, but the fact that the rookie wasn't playing when he probably could have played today is very, very telling in my opinion. Now, his stats are weird because back in college in 2024, he plays one game with Arizona, and then the NCAA does, what the NCAA does, and they're no fun, right? They find some kind of loophole, some technicality where his jersey number, something with Alabama State, his redshirt year, they just shut him down. Fucking stupid as fuck, I know. But in that one game he played, he had 13 carries for 106 yards and a tug with a 36-yard long run in that game. So, again, I'm not saying that if Bill starts going in like the 6th round, you should be drafting him. But if he's only going in like the 8th or 9th round in your home league, the reason why we like Brian Robinson that we talked about earlier, we were talking about Christian McCaffrey, was because I thought he had touchdown upside in an offense that I expected to be elite. And I still think the Commanders' offense is going to be very, 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 very fucking good. So that's why you would take the shot on a guy like Little Bill late in your fantasy drafts. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below while you're down there. Whether you are new to the channel, please leave a like on today's video. Make sure you guys check out the Patreon. Link in the video description. And check out one of the videos on our screen if you haven't seen them already. I love you guys a long time. Hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy.